probably the most hyped transformation that's going through the anime community at the moment, and probably the most hyped moment of 2022. We have Gear 5th, and I think it's a really interesting power. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it because a lot of shonen main characters have broken, I guess you could say, main powers. Deku has one for all, which is the strongest quirk. Asta, in a world that has magic, is the only one with anti-magic. Naruto, he had the strongest or the most, I guess the tail beast that had the most tails. And Ichigo, he has all four of the races in one human, which is a full bringer, I guess. Soul Reaper, Hollow, Quincy, all of that. And the question I have is, well, number one, I want to know how the community, how everybody feels about Gear 5th. And for me, has it necessarily ruined One Piece, specifically Luffy's Devil Fruit and the way that he uses other gears? So let's talk about that. How has Gear 5th ruined Luffy's use of his Devil Fruit? But if you guys enjoy regular anime content, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to get the number sign new. With that away, my name is Potential Elise, and let's see how Luffy's Gear 5th has affected his Devil Fruit. So what exactly is Gear 5th? Well, we now know that Luffy does not have a paramecia, but that he's actually a mythical zone, which it gives him rubber properties, greater physical ability or physical strength, and now he has the freedom to do basically whatever he wants, where Luffy now, I guess you could say, he uses Toon Force, or he has Toon-like properties. He basically turned into a cartoon character. And I think this is the perfect power for Luffy. He's such a free-spirited person. And for Oda, as the author of One Piece, how he writes stuff with different character designs, different character laugh, and powers, I think that this is the perfect fruit for Luffy. Gear 5th, it was first introduced in chapter 1044 against Kaido, and then we saw it again, I think 25 chapters later in chapter 1069 against Rob Lucci, where he didn't bother to use any other gears. And my question is, why is that? He transformed straight into Gear 5th to challenge Luffy. My question is, was it so that Vegapunk could introduce the rationale behind Devil Fruits, that it's the manifestation of evolution through people's desires? Is it to show Vegapunk who or what the Warrior of Liberation is? Is it because Oda just introduced it and so he wanted to showcase a little bit more? Or was it because of the reintroduction of Rob Lucci, and a lot of the anime community, or at least One Piece fans, were down in his strain saying Luffy would load different stuff like that, proving that he's not weak? I don't know, it may be one of these reasons, or I have no clue. Luffy has been using different gears for a long time, and we know that the drawbacks includes how his lifespan is shortened. Now, I don't know, but I assume the more complex or higher the gear is, the more strain is on the body. For instance, when you're in a car, when you go from first to second, second to third, and all the way up to, I think it's 5. It might be 6 actually, I don't know. I've only driven a stick shift like twice. And so, you know, the higher you go, the faster you're able to go in the car. So to me, it should have Luffy have more tax and more repercussions for going into a higher gear. But the only thing that I've seen from Gear 5th is that he turns into an old man for a little bit and then he'd fine again. Look at Kaido. He was able to reuse Gear 5th right then and there after he had a short dialogue with Kaido. And then Rob Lucci, as soon as he escaped and launched into that little rocket ship type thing, he was fine and turned right back into normal Luffy. Where I think in the anime, the whole, oh, it shortens your lifespan or shortens something, I think that's a little bit exaggerated. We've seen it in a lot of different anime where, at least the way I look at it, we'll never, once the series is over and the journey is done, we'll never see these characters again. So like Luffy, whatever happens, whether he's alive, whether he's dead, or however One Piece ends, whether, I guess in this scenario, if Luffy's alive, we'll never see him after this, so we won't ever know how old or how he's going to age or when he dies, if that makes sense. Now that we have Gear 5th, do we really need any other gears? Like I said, he went straight into Gear 5th when he went against Rob Lucci, and when you look at it, Gear 5th basically does everything that every other gears do. For example, he used a big fist multiple times against Kaido, similar to Gear 3rd. He was fast enough to compete against a hybrid Kaido, so he doesn't need Snake Man or he doesn't need Gear 2nd. And when he fought against Kaido in base, he just used all 3 types of hockey in their advanced versions. Now, I'm not necessarily sure how much Kaido held back, because when you look at, well, it's in the manga, but specifically I think the anime version does a better job of portraying this, that once Luffy learned advanced chakras, Kaido got excited and started fighting Luffy a little bit harder because, hey, Luffy was able to compete. But Kaido, he ended up getting so excited that he blacked out and used too much strength, which Luffy wasn't able to keep up with, and he knocked him off Onigashima. So that just shows that Kaido is way stronger than Luffy. And then even when when Luffy used Gear 4th and they were interfered with the CP-0H, I still think that Kaido would have, been it too much for Luffy. And even in Gear 5th, Luffy had a hard time against Kaido, right? Kaido wasn't just somebody, as soon as Luffy got Gear 5th, that he was able to that Luffy was able to run away with it scot-free. Nah, Luffy struggled. And so I see a lot of people saying that, oh, Luffy no-diff first commanders. Where I disagree. I still think that, definitely Luffy needs to, that he loses in base and probably Gear 2nd and 3rd. Now, I think an argument can be made about Gear 4th, but Law, Yamato, Zoro, King of Hell Zoro is definitely pushing Luffy Gear 5th. You can't convince me otherwise. But what is there a weakness in Gear 5th? I don't think you can say there is, because in the manga it says it's his peak or the pinnacle of his strength. In this series, we're going to be going against Yonko, Admirals, and probably other opponents that are around those level. Now, I want to mention this, Luffy, it don't matter where he's at. He somehow finds a way, before he gets to his main opponent of the arc, he finds a way to fight, different, I mean, they're nobodies, but weaker opponents before he gets to the main boss. So I do want to mention, and maybe that's where his gears will be incorporated. But I want to mention other anime series that bring up my attention. Like, for example, Naruto, he has Sage Mode, he has KCM, which is basically the Nine Tails ability infused with Naruto's chakra and stuff like that. More details, but this ain't Naruto video, right? And then there's Barium Mode, but this is spoilers for Boruto, so skip ahead to this time so you don't be spoiled. But when he had to go back to using Sage Mode, because unfortunately Kurama, RIP my boy, he ended up dying. And yes, he has combined Sage Mode with KCM, Sage 6 Pass, whatnot. But realistically, he only really used KCM for once it was achieved for most of the rest of the series. And don't get me wrong, I think it makes sense that once you get to a point where you have the strong ability and that, as series goes on, you're going to go against stronger and more tougher opponents. So it makes logical sense that he didn't have to rely on Sage Mode in the past. But it just, the fact that we just got some of these forms and he only uses KCM, and, it makes me miss some of the older forms that Naruto had. An anime that I think did a great job of portraying, not necessarily leaving out old transformations, has to be Dragon Ball. And the best example I can give, there's multiple, but I'm gonna say the Tournament of Power, where we're gonna use the anime version because I read the manga, but just anime version. So the Tournament of Power is 48 minutes, where there's different juggernauts there in terms of how strong these opponents are. There's Jiren, Hit, Kefla, Toppo, Goku, Vegeta, and a lot more characters. If I didn't say yours, well, too bad, right? But Goku, his strongest form at the time, before he unlocked Ultra Instinct, was Super Saiyan Blue. And so if he went all out from the start, well, he would drain his stamina, where there's different opponents who aren't as strong as Jiren, aren't as strong as Hit and Toppo, and he doesn't necessarily need to go all out. So he'll use base, Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, God, Blue, Kaioken, etc. And so I think this is a pretty good job of the author writing it to where Goku, he can still utilize his other forms without having to go all out, because in the Tournament of Power, it wasn't a sprint, but a marathon. But yeah, when you look at Gear 5th, it does everything that his other gears can do with little drawback, at least that we know of. And Gear 4th was the example, and other gears as well, showcase drawbacks. For example, with Gear 4th, that he ended up, running out of hockey for 10 minutes, and compared to Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, post time skip, he could just spam those, but pre time skip, Luffy couldn't really do that. Gear 3rd, he ended up shrinking, and Gear 2nd really utilized a lot of his stamina. But I will say the final war is going to be crazy, and depending on the opponent, And the more that we learn about Gear 5th, maybe he'll fight in base and 2nd through 4th. I know the reason why I really want him to incorporate other gears, but not necessarily have anything to do with strength, is just my personal preference, because I do still love his other gears. Gear 2nd will always be my favorite gear, and then Snake Man after that, then Gear 5th. And maybe we might see it because, like I said, Luffy always fights, smaller opponents before he gets to the big bad. I mean, look at Dressrosa, Marineford. Let me know how you guys feel about Gear 5th. Do you guys think that it ruined Luffy's Devil Fruit and the fact that he may or may not use his other gears anymore? Let me know in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video from my Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok is on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.